in all 50 states, in nearly all 50 states. In fact, I wrote the book about it, and it's called Robbed, Understanding the Game of Diversion During Healthcare and State Administration. You know, it's interesting. Right here in your community, under all of our noses, that this type of extortion and fraud does ensue. And it has been kept a secret because those in positions of power don't really want you to know that you can lose your home and your estate within a year's time. But I do believe that, yes, this is a city council issue. Rabbi and economist Abraham Epstein basically said the very origin of government is due to the human desire for security, and this includes economic security. You know, I'm going to ask you one thing that one of our presidents said in his inaugural speech in 1961, and that is, my fellow citizens of Colorado Springs, ask not what City Council can do for you. What are we going to do together to ensure our community embraces economic security, less regulation, less licensing schemes, less restrictions on our lives, and less taxes so that we may enjoy our natural rights? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Regina English, and I would say that my background is I am a current graduate student. I will be completing my master's in public administration this month on the 27th. So I will use this knowledge that I have gained from my degree to impact change in my community. I am not a subject matter expert on everything. I'm not. It is so many different issues that are pressing here in the city of Colorado Springs. But what I do know is that I want to impact change in my community in a positive way. And it's very important to me to model the way for our youth, because they soon one day will be running our city. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to step over here on the light. Good evening. My name is Randy Tuck. I wanted to thank you all for being here this evening to listen to what everybody has to say. Like you, it's important for me to be here. I have a great vision where our city can go. I have about 34 years in construction experience. I started out as a concrete laborer and worked my way up to a superintendent and project manager. So I have a real strong background in building, so I think that I have something to bring to the table, especially with the affordable housing issue. There are a lot of things that our city is going to need in the future, and we're going to have a lot of challenges. I believe safety is a big one. We want to stand behind our first offenders, and we also have issues naturally with our park and recs. We need revenues for those. And then we have a huge problem, I say problem, a huge issue with the homeless population. We want to do what we can to help them, at the same time be compassionate, and also watch for revenues that are being spent that our city don't need to spend that we can use elsewhere. So I'm hoping to bring something new to the table, new ideas, and I'm certain that I can be a person that will have something positive to offer. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gordon Klingenschmidt. May I say God bless you in Jesus' name? Is that okay? I want to thank Pastor Mark Coward for opening his church, and he's been a guest on my TV show, Pray in Jesus' Name News. Maybe some of you see that on a religious channel here in town. I'm a former Navy chaplain, but before that I was an Air Force Academy graduate. I am a 20-year veteran, and when the government came to me as a Navy chaplain, and they said, you're not allowed to pray in Jesus' name, what do you think I did? I took a stand, right? And I worked with Jay Sekulow, and we sent 300,000 petitions to Congress, got that law changed, and we restored religious freedom on a national level. I have since helped change bad laws or policies in 13 states. I have run for elected office and won. I was twice named the most conservative state representative from El Paso County in our state house. I have introduced bills to defend religious freedom. That was my #1 issue, but it's not in this race. I want to lower your taxes. I want to eliminate or at least greatly reduce the congestion caused by the bike lanes. We're a little frustrated by that, right? And I want to keep our utilities bills low. Anyway, my website is gordonforcolorado.com. I would like to earn your vote. Gordon Klingenschmidt. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Val Schneider, and I'm choosing to run for City Council in order to utilize my past experience and my lessons learned when I served on the City Council, 2011 to 2015. With that experience, I will be able to hit the ground running with fresh perspectives and be a seasoned council member off the bat, as well as a seasoned board member for the Colorado Springs Utilities. Two of my main platform items include: one, I'd like to raise the annual parks maintenance budget. Back in 2008, Parks had a budget of $19 million. During the financial downturn, it was cut down to $3 million, 3 from 19. It's now up to about 15 million, but I would like to get that back up to 19 million and fix a lot of the equipment that we have in our parks. The second platform item of mine is timely replacement of the Drake Power Plant, and I think we're going to talk about that later.
I'm Bill Murray, and I've been privileged to be your city council member for the last 4 years. This is an at-large position, and that requires an at-large experience factor. It's pretty critical. There is not enough time in here to ask all the questions or present all the scenarios that we'll see in the next 4 years. What you did do 4 years ago is you elected me because you realized that the council was dysfunctional. The council and the mayor argued incessantly and nothing got done. So 3 things I promised you when you elected me was, first of all, collaboration, and you got it. Second was transparency. I haven't reached the transparent level I'd like to, but we've seen more transparency. And finally, make more smarter decisions. So you hear the term smart city now be battered about. The thing I try to do is remind folks is this is all about philosophy. When you're dealing with any particular issue, the important issue of philosophy is, what do you do when you're faced with a situation you're not familiar with? I use empathy, sympathy, and honesty. I can empathize, I can sympathize, but in all honesty, it's not going to work. All right? No, I'm not going to cook your cake. You know, sorry about that, bud. Everyone has a right. The government that governs least governs best. And that's why we've got to get everybody on the same sheet of music. What happened to tolerance? And my red line came up. Thank you. Elect Bill Murray, City Council.
My name is Tom Strand. I'm also an incumbent. I don't need any time to spin up because for the last 4 years, I've been spinning up. I've been taking care of your community. I campaigned 4 years ago on the collaboration between the executive and legislative organizations and departments in your city, and we've done that. This was the first year anyone could remember that we passed the 2019 budget without any changes, that we had worked ahead of time to make that happen. The second thing I've done as an incumbent is I've worked on our infrastructure. I know you see a lot of road signs and yield signs and streets going up, but we have done a tremendous job in filling thousands of miles of potholes, you know, fixing our roads and making them better, taking care of our bridges. The last thing that I ran on 4 years ago was jobs, mostly for our young people in high schools like Palmer, in schools like Colorado College and UCCS and Pikes Peak Community College. I want those young people to stay in this community and not leave because there are jobs and opportunities for them. The thing I'll change in the next 4 years is put more effort in public safety. We need about another 120 police officers, we need a hazmat team, and we need to ensure that we're safe and secure in our community. With that, I'm your neighbor on City Council.
Hi, my name is Tony Joya. I'm running for City Council at large, like the rest of everybody else up here. I think there are 2 things you need to keep in mind when you decide who you're going to vote for. One is you want someone who actually has your ideals. Now, we heard that, you know, there are a couple issues that may not actually apply on City Council, but they definitely make a difference in identifying the character of the person that you're voting for. You'll see in my literature out there, I am strongly pro-life. I am strongly in favor of the Second Amendment. those are probably not issues that are going to make a huge difference here in our city over the next 4 years. But knowing that, you know my character and what I'm bringing to the table when I do make decisions. I value life, and I really loved that video that we saw of the Kentucky governor talking about in our country right now, we are devaluing life. The issues that we do see at our local level where that applies, we've got a horrible, horrible epidemic of suicide among our young people and our veterans in this city. We have got to communicate to them the value of life, the value that God gives them by their being, by His creation. So please, as we talk about the policies tonight, think about the character as well of the people you're going to be voting for. Again, my name is Tony Joya. I'm running for City Council.
Good evening, my name is Wayne Williams. I am running for City Council as well, not surprising given where I'm at. My wife Holly and I moved here to Colorado Springs 27 years ago. And we moved here because it was the type of community that we felt we could raise our children in. We did. All 4 of our children graduated from Rampart High School over in District 20. I had the honor a couple years after moving here of serving on the Colorado Springs Housing Authority, working to build affordable housing and make our community better. I then served in a couple other positions, and then a couple months ago, I got freed up from the other work I was engaged in, and one of your trustees of this church came to me and said, it was one of a number of people who came to me and said, you should run for City Council. And I'm running because I actually believe I can help make a difference. And I did that when I served as a county commissioner. When you drive on Powers Boulevard and see interchanges at Woodman and at Briargate and Union, those are things that I helped bring about. And I want to bring that same commitment to improving our community's infrastructure and making government actually work. As Secretary of State, I cut fees. As county commissioner, I cut taxes. I want to deliver efficient government. My name is Wayne Williams. I ask for your support.
Wayne, drink some water. You're going to be first. So before I go on, I would be remiss. There's a couple people in the room that we probably should recognize as they are either working towards important positions or currently holding important positions. So Sherry Gibson. Vicky Tompkins. And there's a gentleman that's running for mayor. His name is Lawrence Martinez. If you'd wave. Afterwards, you can ask them what it is they're doing. Other than him, I get it. His info. All right. So Wayne, you're going to be first, and we'll just go right down the line. Here is your first question. Drake, again. The cost of utility bills has a major impact on every Colorado Springs family. Much of our power is generated by the Drake power plant, and that plant is scheduled to eventually close. However, there is pressure to close it as early as 2021, which will impact the prices we all pay. What do you think should happen to the Drake plant? When and why?
Thanks. There's a couple things that are important, and as I visited with folks at Colorado Springs Utilities, our grid, our power grid, was built based on generation of a large amount of power in downtown Colorado Springs. And so in order to replace Drake, the first thing you have to do is rebuild the power grid so you can use a dispersed power system. You also have to build the electric system to support that. I think we need to have economic vitality. I want my kids, if they want to be able to find a job here in Colorado Springs. And I don't think we're going to attract many people if what we say is, come to Colorado Springs, we have rolling brownouts. So we have to make sure that we have reliable and efficient energy, and we have to do that first before we can close Drake. I think we ought to be working towards that. I think the mid-2020s is the right time to do that. At that point, we then shut down, we shift to the new systems and run Drake until it drops, which is probably still in the mid-2020s. And I think that's going to be a cost-effective way for us to shift to new power.
This issue obviously is more than a 1 minute issue, so I'm going to build upon what Wayne said. I agree with everything Wayne just said. But what we've got to be doing here is making sure that what we replace Drake with is also going to be cost effective. Because some of the suggestions for what we should be replacing Drake with are going to really raise our rates. Our number one job as the utilities board, incidentally, you're electing us to the utilities board as well, is to protect the ratepayers. We have that responsibility to the public. So if we just willy-nilly try to replace Drake with something that's going to cost a bunch more, it's going to affect every single one of our utility bills. And I tell you what, I don't want to pay more. I know you don't want to pay more. So we have to make sure that when we are ready to replace Drake, we have the right system in place to do so economic and be an economically viable replacement. And Tony Joya.
Again, I'm Tom Strand, and I am currently the chairman on your board of directors for utilities. I've done that for the last 2 years. I understand Drake and Nixon, the Front Range, I understand all the power plants. While I was on the board of directors, we finally drew a line in the sand that we were going to close Drake for obvious reasons, not later than 2035. I think that's too far out, but as has been said, we've got obligations for 3 primary things. Keep the rates as low as possible for a municipally owned public utility. Second, have reliability so that we can have these bright lights and the warmth and the cooling when we need it. And number 3, relationships with our ratepayers who are owners of a public utility. I really think that we can look at Drake when we find other opportunities, whether solar or something else, maybe in the late 2020s, and that's what I would shoot for.
Well, what happens is when you're in the arena and you're actually voting with Tom, you understand what's really happening. 4 years ago, there was not a date to shut Drake. Of course, without a date, you don't shut Drake. You don't even discuss shutting Drake. We don't discuss where we're at now. So it's because of actions taken by this council, this board, to shut Drake, we can now talk about closing it earlier. So let's talk about the bigger picture. Okay, Newman Systems and how much money we spent to put Newman System in. Was it a mistake? Ladies and gentlemen, it makes no difference at this stage. All right? We put it in. We now have an investment. We have a capital investment. We need to try to get something out of it. Okay? So instead of saying stagnant and saying what we will do, what we're doing right now is terribly important. We've already agreed to 150 megawatts of new solar, which reached the 20% threshold that we've already agreed to. So we're actually making the goals that we set for everybody here. But what's absolutely important is we're also buying a 50 megawatt battery, be the largest battery in the entire state, to help integrate a system. We have something called a JDA, joint dispatch agreement, where we go to Lyman and get the wind turbine power and bring it here. These issues are already in place. We're way ahead of that power curve, but we need to accelerate as best we can. I'm done, thank you.
Bill Murray.
Val Snyder, back in 2013 when I was on council, we formed a Drake task force and we studied the retirement of the big power plant. A couple quick perspectives that I got off of that. Before we can even consider replacing Drake, we have to find what kind of replacement power that we're going to have to supply the steady power that we have downtown. So find the replacement power. We haven't yet, but we're looking. 2, we have to find a way to get the power from wherever we buy it from here. Those are called transmission lines. So until we get replacement power and we get redundant replacement power and we get the technology to get the transmission lines here, we're not going to be replacing Drake. Mid-20s was a time that I've heard. Nobody really knows, but that's the time that we're going to shoot for.
Again, I'm Gordon Klingenschmidt. You know, I lead a charity in town that takes care of widows, not just orphans overseas, but I happen to be a chaplain in 3 nursing homes in town. And I care about lowering utility bills because there are elderly families who can't afford. Think about a single mom with 3 kids who makes less than the median income of $29,000 a year. She's got to pay half of that in her rent, utility bills, phone bills. By the time Christmas comes, she has nothing to share with her children. I care about lower utilities. I met for an hour today with Aram Benjamin, who is the city utilities CEO, and I explained to him I'm going to be conservative on these issues. I would personally would have voted to keep Drake open a little bit longer, because if we make that same mistake that Pueblo made, they closed 2 power plants early, they jacked up everybody's utility rates from 11 cents to 14 cents per kilowatt hour. We cannot afford to make those same mistakes. We need to be more concerned and compassionate toward those who can't afford their light bill or replenishment.
Good evening, Randy Tuck. So I look at this from a construction point of view. Whenever there's something being developed or by the plan put in place to make a change, such as this, we naturally have to have that design and implementation of what we're going to do, the costs for it, the timeline which it's going to take to get it done, the actual implementation, putting it in place, we're ready to throw the switch, and then at that point in time, we can figure a way of being able to make that change, the decommissioning of Drake. And there's going to be a lot of work after it's decommissioned, just taking the old one apart and getting the salvage costs out of that. That's going to be a huge dollar amount that we can put back into our city. But I think going forward, we need to make certain that we have our footing sure and strong on this, and that we make certain that all of the costs, all the fees that are going to be coming from or coming towards having to get this done, we realize what those are. And nobody wants to see the utility bills raised, but they are going to. You can certainly just bet that they are going to be higher. We just want to keep them as low as possible. So I think it's from start to finish, design, development, and then making certain that all along the way we save every dollar we can.
So obviously these guys have a leg up because they are on council and they are a bit more experienced. However, it doesn't mean that I can't impact change. So this is one of those subjects that I'm not an expert on. However, with the research that I have been doing, I know that it is important to many people in the city to decommission Drake. We need to do it when it makes good economic sense, and we don't want our utility rates to go sky high. So when those things can happen, I'm sure Drake will be decommissioned. Thank you, Regina English.
Okay, I'm Athena Rowe, and I agree with just about everyone here on the panel. I will say that during my research, I noticed that, and meeting with the utilities CEO, that they're trending more towards solar and wind power. The interesting thing is there's a lot of government funding, federal funding for solar power, and I think it's a little bit misleading to see how expensive it's really going to be if we decide to go that direction. And so I basically say, let's take our time decommissioning Drake until we have a really good plan laid out. Then I also believe that we really need to be very sure about utility prices, because I agree with Gordon that there's a lot of people in this community living on fixed incomes that cannot afford to see their power bills double in price like they did in Pueblo. That's very shocking. So until we can find something economically feasible, we need to be taking our time and make sure that we really have the fact-based and the evidence that we need to make the change. Thank you. Athena Rowe.
Thank you all. I'm going to cover a couple things really quick. Please make sure that you are holding the mic up.